Joined by Bryn Renner, former UNC quarterback, former NFL quarterback, former college football coach, and current commentator on UNC radio broadcasts for the football team. Bryn, thank you so much for joining us here with WRAL.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing this.
Yeah, just want to break down a little bit of the Carolina game this weekend. Obviously, as I wrote, this was sort of the most Belichickian, if that's a word, performance they've had so far. Only 3 games, but strong running game, dominant defense, special teams flip the field a couple times, and you roll over a team like Richmond. From your perspective, what can you gain from a game like this? It is just Richmond, but when you start to look a little better, does that help?
Yeah, I think Carolina is settling into their identity and who they want to be. Obviously, this was a game that we were supposed to win, but it's also really good for the kids to get those reps. And when you play TCU and you look back at that game, that's potentially a top 25 team that was rolling. And then you get Charlotte and you get Richmond, which is great for our confidence and kind of to set the identity. So I think when you look at the Richmond game, it was like you said, it was a full top to bottom Bill Belichick, model of a game, right? Yeah, we rushed the ball really well. Damon Lane had 148 yards rushing. Gio looked pretty crisp throwing the ball. He could have probably improved and missed a couple shots. And then the defense was really, really strong. And that's something that I have noticed the last, honestly, probably the first half of TCU and then really Charlotte and Richmond. The defenses looked really, really strong. And, there's a lot of veteran guys over there with Andrew Simpson, and you got Thaddeus Dixon on the outside. And so they're really kind of coming into stride. And Brian, I always say this, you got to break up the college football season into quarters. We're a quarter away through, right? 3 games, 6 games, 9 games, and 12. Can you improve in those games? And then, stuck in between, we have 2 bye weeks. So I think, if you get through UCF and you can, they're 2-0 right now, and you can kind of get to that first break of the bye week and know who you are and get the guys who are going to make plays, a little bit of rest to make this run, you're in a pretty good situation. But I think if you're sitting here looking back and saying we're 2-1, no matter how or who we played, I think everybody would be pretty pleased.
I want to break down a few of those things. First, Lopez, Gio Lopez, quarterback, starting to look a little more comfortable, starting to use his legs a little bit more. But man, it just feels like there's some plays left out there. Even the touchdown to Ship, a high throw, Ship made a nice play. Is that some fundamental stuff to clean up? Is it speed of the game stuff? What are you seeing, and where do you think Gio Lopez can improve?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think if you look at when he came in the second semester of summer. And so really that time with Freddie Kitchens was a little bit, it basically had 3 weeks. He just had training camp. And what does he feel comfortable with? What does Freddie feel like comfortable calling? And some injuries on the offensive line, finding out who the running back is going to be. There's a lot of variables that he had to kind of overcome. And I know from playing the position, when you're starting a new offense, you're trying to get the ball to your hand, you're going to be a ticker too late. And I think that's what we're seeing is there's highs throws, there's missed throws, there's accuracy issues. But I think it comes with time and rhythm. And he really didn't have a chance to develop that. I think he's gotten better as the season has gone on, but I think he's got to improve and become a pocket passer for us to win. I think everyone can kind of see that. But I think he's got a chance to be. I think if you watch the South Alabama film and why he got here, I think he has that in him. But I think when you look at the quarterback play, I look at the feet first, and everyone can kind of see the rhythm and timing of his feet are a little bit off. But I think he's making more consistent throws down the field, which is kind of his bread and butter. He likes to launch the ball deep, but he's got to get better at the short intermediate routes, especially with the accuracy going forward, playing better competition.
Damon June, freshman, goes for 148, a big 50-yard run to start the game, a big 45-yarder to kind of put the finishing touches on it. When you look at him, one-cut runner is how Bill Belichick described him. Puts his foot in the ground and goes. Ran through some tackles on the 50-yarder. What are you seeing out of him? Obviously, he's just a true freshman. Pretty impressive performance.
Yeah, Brian, I kind of relate this to you don't want to tackle the big, strong, aggressive guys. And looks like what he is. Amarion was a very one-cut type come downhill running back. And I think they're very similar. And I think in college football nowadays, those defensive backs, along with undersized linebackers and safeties coming downhill, they don't want to tackle a guy who's making one cut and lowering his pads. I think, you look at Saquon Barkley and those guys that are running, that are big physical backs, those are really tough guys to take down. So I think if you look at what Damon's doing, he's making one cut and making the offensive lineman right. Because I think sometimes when you try to dance in the backfield, it hinders the offensive line and doesn't allow them to kind of sustain on blocks. So, there's a lot of different things that he's doing well, but I think he's running pretty confident for a freshman running back. So he's I tell you this, from playing the quarterback position, the running game is your best friend. And because then it opens up everything. And I think you've seen that, honestly, the second half of Charlotte. And then you look at Richmond, like guys were running wide open for Gio because they were play action there. So I think if you can establish the run first and really kind of lean on that, it opens up so much things in the passing game.
You mentioned you've been impressed with the defense. I think, a lot of people still have memories of that TCU game. Guys just wide open, running free, missing tackles. What have you seen in the last 2 weeks that gives you maybe confidence moving into only P4 is left on the schedule for the rest of the way, starting with Central Florida on Saturday? What gives you confidence that the defense has actually improved and hasn't just taken advantage of the schedule a little bit?
Yeah, I think when you look at it live and also on the film, they're in the right gaps in the right places. Now, do they make the tackles all the time? No, but that's college football. But I think if you look at the consistency of the first half of TCU, Charlotte, and not giving up touchdowns and kind of getting off the field, no matter any way you kind of shake it or who you're playing, it's really tough, especially in the day and age of the transfer portal. There's a lot of talent everywhere across the teams. But if you look at our defense, we've gotten a lot better in one, stopping the run since the TCU game in the second half, and two, really kind of tackling. And I think you look at the intensity and the takeaways. We got 2 sacks in a ball game. We haven't done that in a long time. We're pressuring the quarterback. We're doing different things up front with the stunts and twists and bringing a lot more pressure. So, and I think if you look at the whole, it's an older group over there, right? It's Andrew Simpson, who's played a lot of games at Boise State. It's Thaddeus Dixon, who played a ton of games at Washington. It's Mackay who gets the strip sack, return. I think it's a team on defense that is actually a veteran unit for us, which is really good to see. So, and young guys are playing. We're rotating a ton of guys up front, defensive line wise, and getting a ton of reps. So I think it's just a matter of these guys getting comfortable in the system, making plays. But I thought they've also tackled a lot better.
Yeah, the defensive line seemed to get off blocks a little bit better against Richmond. It actually creates some pressure on the quarterback. That'll be, I think, a big key, at least from my perspective, moving forward. Can you get some pressure with your front four, and you can help out your linebackers, help out your secondary?
Absolutely.
When you obviously the special teams has been good. UNC snuffed out that fake punt. The Will Hardy had a nice return to set Carolina up in positive field position. They capitalized on both of those possessions. Sort of what you think about when you think about Bill Belichick, right? Being good in the fundamentals, being good in the special teams plays. I don't know how much time you've gotten to spend with him, but do you get a sense that the coaching staff, kind of likes where the team is at this point?
Yeah, I think they're pretty pleased, and I'll go back to this point. I think they're encouraged by the improvement, right? If there was an improvement and we were kind of still the same way across the board, I think we've made plays and corrected a lot of things. And I think football is a game of corrections, right? One week you'll score, 40 points and look like the best team in the country, and the next week you'll have to grind it out and win by a field goal. I just think it's the nature of having a lot of things on film that people are doing, successful, and they want to stop you. So in that week to prepare, it kind of gets you kind of run out of things to kind of offensively score points and defensively stop the other team. So that's what I think is great about college football. You never know which team's going to show up. You might have to score 51 game, and you might have to score, just 14 to scrape it out. And I've been a part of those games. Like when we were with Larry, we scored 58 and still lost to Georgia Tech by 10. And then I also was with Butch when we had a defensive team where all we had to do was score 17 points, and we beat Louisville 17-10. So you really kind of try to find out what the identity of your team is. And I think the coaches have to be pleased now because, look, you found out you have a running back that's a freshman that can one cut and get downhill and has provided a spark. And I think you look at Gio, he can run play action. He had a couple touchdowns that were great. And then you look at the defense, they're really kind of coming together. And special teams is making plays as well. So I think if you can kind of keep developing your confidence, especially with a team that hasn't been together or has only been together for 3 games, you can kind of say, okay, where can we improve? Let's get better at practice and build some confidence.
I want to ask you about a team that's flown under the radar, even here locally. Obviously, so much attention on Bill Belichick and UNC. Duke signed a quarterback to
Hmm.
$4 million a year. Got a lot of attention coming off a 9-win season. NC State, no one has talked about, and they're 3-0. They beat ECU, Virginia, and Wake Forest. Not the greatest teams in the world, but also not FCS competition. And if you look at
Hmm.
what ECU has done, what Virginia has done, and what Wake has done when they haven't played NC State, I believe they're undefeated. So
Yeah.
those teams, they're not slouches. What have you seen out of what Dave Doran's been able to do at NC State that impresses you or makes you think he can sustain this for a while?
Yeah, it pains me to say this, but they look really good. I mean, they really do from top to bottom. I'm really impressed with the quarterback and how he's playing. He's a dual threat type of guy, and he's really electric with his feet. And they've been in competitive ball games. I mean, ECU is going to give you your best. They won that game. I thought the Wake Forest was a really, really good ball game on both sides. I think Wake looked great as well. But when you look at NC State, they're a physically tough football team every single year. Even go back to when I played, and they'll hit you and they fly to the ball, and you can see a confident team no matter when they step out there. I think they're one of the most tough teams to play week in and week out because they're highly competitive, highly energetic. They fly to the ball, and now they have a quarterback. And I think whenever NC State has a quarterback, they're really tough to beat. And being 3-0, there's not many teams that can say that. And there's a good stretch of games with them coming up, but you beat UVA and you get a pick in the end zone. They've been in tight ball games too. I mean, it's been one score games or two score games that, this entire time. And when you win games like that, and then you get to the fourth quarter and you're down by a score or within a score, it just gives your team entire confidence because you know you can do it. So I think having that experience going forward, they look pretty good.
This week, Carolina travels to Central Florida, last non-conference game of the year. You'll be on the call for that one?
No, I'm not doing this one.
Okay.
I'm gonna be on Monday doing it with Jones
All
on the
right.
post game. Yeah.
Sounds good. What do you look for, one key or two keys to, Central Florida team that always has a lot of speed, whether they're
Mhm.
good or bad, they always have a ton of speed, especially at the skill position players.
Yeah, I think this is going to be UCS first test. They've played a couple, two opponents. They're 2-0, obviously. That's something to be said. But I think they're going to come out with probably a different scheme. You always got to prepare for the unexpected trick plays. You always got to prepare for different things you haven't seen as far as blitz packages and things like that. But when you go on the road, you really got to prepare for the environment. We played there when I was coaching at FIU, and it's called the Bounce House, and it's the Bounce House for a reason. And I know since Coach Belichick and the Heels are coming in, it's going to be rocking. So you get your kind of second chance to show out to the world. I think for the players, and I think it's kind of going to be you have to have some personal pride and redemption right now. All eyes are going to be on us. Hey, how do you respond from TCU? You're 2-1. You can really make a statement. I think you've got to take the rest of the season if you're Carolina and have that chip on your shoulder where no one thinks we're any good. And if you're a player, you got to dig deep and kind of have those leaders emerge and say, hey, look, man, we got a chance to be on a national stage playing a really good opponent. Let's go out and give it our best and prove to the world that we're a lot better. I know that would be the locker room speech that I would say if I was a leader to them. Hey, look, let's have a good week of practice, go on the road and make a statement. And then you got a bye week and kind of you can regroup. And then you got Clemson coming to the house. So I think that's the biggest thing is this season's so long for 18 to 22-year-old kids. And if you could just take one game at a time and improve one practice at a time, and when it comes to kickoff on Saturday, go play free and go have fun. I think that's the biggest thing. But we need to make a statement on the road this week.
That game will be televised on Fox 50 right here in the Triangle. If you're watching, 3:30 on Fox against Central Florida. Bryn Renner, he's agreed to join us all year on Mondays to talk Carolina football and football, college football. So we appreciate the time today, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Brian. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.